Hello, I'm Julie Swenson, Managing Director of Forward Theater Company in Madison, Wisconsin.
And I'm Mike Fisher, a Milwaukee-based theater writer and dramaturg.
And I'm Jen Uphoff-Gray, founder and artistic director of Forward Theater Company. And this is Theater Forward, a monthly conversation about theater from a local, regional, and national perspective. From Madison to Manhattan, we're excited to share insights into our own company while exploring issues surrounding theater in the Midwest and around the country. Welcome to episode 116 of Theater Forward.
That's a good number. All right.
And in this episode, we are back to what has become an annual tradition for us, a conversation about what we are grateful for as this year comes to a close. So we're just going to kind of take turns, go around, share what's on our individual lists. And Mike, I'm going to let you kick us off.
Well, I truly am grateful for what I'm about to mention, but I'm also telling you, I have taken some grief from listeners to our last podcast who are on my case about dissing Arthur Miller as though he was like some sort of god.
Really?
And I don't back down on anything I said about Arthur Miller, but I will point to what was the best play that I saw at Stratford this year. It was a world premiere of a play called Salesman in China. That sort of relived the moment when Arthur Miller was invited to China in 1983 to do a production which he directed, knowing no Chinese at all, no Mandarin, I should say, of Death of a Salesman. And unlike so many plays like this involving cultural clashes where you end up with some sort of version of the white savior complex, this version really focused on the Chinese actors and how little a blundering Arthur Miller actually understood. The play was performed in joint subtitles in Mandarin and in English. About 60% of the play, or 55% of the play, I think, was in Mandarin. So you had that distancing thing as well. And it was just a super smart look at both the difference between the two cultures and also the way in which China, in a moment when capitalism was really taking off, was looking through a lens darkly at one of the more searing indictments of American capitalism in the American theater canon. It was really good. It will definitely come to New York. The hard thing will be casting. It's a huge cast, and you need something like 18 or 19 Chinese actors to do it. I can't remember the exact number. It's a lot. But I'm sure it will happen because the play is that good.
Wow.
I look forward to seeing that wherever it comes in the United States. Speaking of people, here's my bumpy segue. Last year, I was so grateful to the audiences who continue to come back. I mean, we look at what did our first show after the pandemic, Mom, How Did You Meet the Beatles? What was that audience total number versus now? And it's leaps and bounds. It's better than we have ever been. We are coming out of a show that we just did, a world premiere of Murder Girl by Heidi Armbruster, that sold out before we started. That has never happened in Forward history. There was a confluence of a whole bunch of reasons why. I could make up what I think it is. I don't know. But I am grateful. I am seeing really good plays out there and audiences receptive to that and spending their money to come and see live theater.
Julie, I love that you said that, because actually one of the things on my list was gratitude for our audiences, right? And especially for the way that they embrace and are game for new things, whether it's a new play or a play that's maybe not new, but in a form that feels challenging or new. This year, 2024, is the year in which we ended with this new play, Murder Girl, that, as you said, sold out. We began the year with The Flying Lovers of Vitebsk. It was fairly early U.S. production, but not a brand new play, but it was a new form. And that also was just about a sold out run for us. But I'm grateful for our audiences for the way they join us and join each other in community. It's what's so unique about theater as an experience. And especially this fall, running a show in November, we began performances November 7th. Just the number of hugs that I exchanged with audience members in the lobby as folks were grappling with the world around them and able to come and be together and maybe feel like we'll get through this as a community. And it feels like such a gift as a theater maker to have audiences like this. And I speak not just about Forward's audiences, but of course theater audiences everywhere. We don't exist without them.
Right. That is for sure.
Yeah. Here's one that this is also about audiences in a way, but it's about the power of theater to change people's lives. And this is not a play. This is a film, but it is an amazing film made by some great theater people. Ghostlight, which was an almost all Chicago cast, got rave reviews in both the LA Times and the New York Times, got a national distribution. Tara Mallon and Keith Kupferher and their teenage daughter were in real life. These are the first two are legendary names in Chicago theater. Tara is the founder of Rivendell, which is the sort of for those of you listening in Wisconsin, that's like the Chicago Renaissance Theater Works. And they played a family that was falling apart following a terrible tragedy that they had experienced. I don't want to say more because you can actually rent this on most platforms right now, and should if you have not seen it. And it's about how, in this case, a community theater production of Romeo and Juliet transforms an entire community and the audience that's with it. And it is, I saw it 3 times. I don't see film 3 times. I don't have time to do that. I cried all 3 times. I cried more the 3rd time than I did the first. It is that powerful and inspiring about why we love what we do and how it can change people's lives, which is why our audiences come.
Can I have to jump in there, Mike, because again, something I'd put on my list for this year is gratitude for theater that makes its way to film. And this is not thinking specifically, and we've talked about this in plenty of episodes, filming live theater to share with audiences, which is something we've been doing since the pandemic and are now just kind of, beginning to close that down. But theater that is adapted for movies. And I was looking back on 2024 and I saw a lot of films that were based on pieces of theater this year. A couple of them were from late 2023 that I didn't see them until early 2024. The Color Purple is one. Just for Us, the Alex Edelman piece that was on Broadway, which I believe is still streaming on Max or HBO for those of us who don't, change that quickly, our brand loyalties. I got to see Slave Play, Not a Movie, a Play, also on Max this year. I finally watched the filmed version of Waitress, which, oh my goodness, that is beautiful. But also, I can't not mention Wicked.
Oh, God, wasn't that fun?
It's so good. It is so good. And I'm not someone who often gets to go to see something twice in the movie theaters. I have too many other things to see. But I saw it by myself over the Thanksgiving weekend, and I cannot wait to take my family and go back again. I thought it was a beautiful adaptation of that, which honestly, I am one of those people who didn't love it that much. I thought it was okay as a stage show, and I'm obsessed with how good the film is. It's all the things that I like.
I was going to wait until, because I finally was going to go see Wicked. I had tickets on March 13th, 2020 and did not get to see that. So I was kind of holding out like, I've got to see the stage version before I see this movie. But no,
go to the movie.
No, go.
All right.
So much.
All right.
I went in completely cynical. I was actually sort of dragged to Wicked, the film version. I'm like, come on, it's like, it's just going to be a duplicate of what I saw on stage, which was good,
fine,
but not great, but okay. And it was.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That.
Probably me and who's ever listening is going to get tickets this weekend.
Well, any nerdy person out there with their Oscar checklist getting ready, you're going to need to see this for that too. I guarantee it.
Right. All right. I wonder, Jen. I was thinking about. You were saying, how many plays have become movies, and our ability now to look at movies or accept movies that are a box set, or I'm thinking of The Piano Lesson, which is out right now. It feels very play-like. It feels like they filmed the play version. And I do think we've sort of taught audiences, or audiences are more accepting of the sort of the static set, or some of the things that a filmed version of a play brings to it.
Yeah.
And so we might be opening up a little bit more these movies, these plays that become movies that don't need to be reimagined.
Very true. And that is nothing like what is going on in Wicked.
Right, exactly. Definitely. I am, to that end though, we are probably not going to be doing a digital ticket anymore. I am really grateful and thankful to the playwrights, to the licensing agencies, to Actors Equity Association, who allowed us to do this for so long. And if we could still do that, if we still had the buy-in from all of those groups, we would still do it.
Yeah.
So instead of lamenting the fact that we are not going to be doing it, I am grateful that we did it. We did it for a long time. We have a lot of people for whom this was the only way they could see a Forward Theater play. And I'm proud and happy that we were able to do it for as long as we did.
Yeah. And to be clear, we're stopping not because we want to, but because we're just getting we're not getting permission from enough of the license holders to allow it. It was, it used to be all 4 shows in our season. And then last year it was only 2 of the 4 gave permission. This year it was only 1 of the 4. And it's just, it's going away. And it's a shame. I wish it wasn't. I don't think it's very, dare I say, forward thinking of the industry, but it is what it is. We'll put our energies into some other things.
See, that was a very polite way to call bah humbug on the lack of foresight on the entities involved. But we've talked about that before. We're going to stick with the gratitude theme. I want to stick with the film theme, and I'll get there this way via book. The best theater book I read this year was Cocktails with George and Martha, which was just an absolute joy, taking you from the moment when Albie is this starving playwright in the village through the entire, unbelievable, headache-inducing mess, which was Mike Nichols early in his career, trying to corral Burton and Taylor and his other 2 co-stars into this thing, which was they made so many mistakes, and nevertheless came out with a film which is, I dare say, Elizabeth Taylor's finest hour on film. And I got to see it finally after many years of just seeing it on the Theater of the Tiny, as Angela Nuni would say of television. I got to see it on a big screen, courtesy of the Music Box, which is a sort of vintage theater establishment in Chicago. And they, just as I was finishing the book, they had a 1 performance show on the big screen. It's like a 400 or 500 seat theater. It was a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, and there was not a seat to be had.
Ooh, cool.
Which was just
Sunday
great.
at 11 a.m. to see Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Awesome.
Boy. That's fantastic.
I love that. There is no good segue. I'm just going to go to something else on my list because it's on the list.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, as we come to the end of 2024, how grateful I am to live in a world and work in a field that has stage managers.
Yay.
Oh, how wonderful. Yes.
They are the best of the best. I can only imagine how smoothly, efficiently, and kindly the world would run if everything was run by stage managers. We work with a whole bunch of them here at Forward. We've had some incredible folks with us in 2024. They were all rock stars. And also just going to shout out the rest of the members of our run crew and of everybody's run crew who so infrequently get acknowledged. Obviously, most love always goes to the actors, then maybe directors, playwrights, then maybe design team behind that. But oh my goodness, the wardrobe supervisors and the electricians and the technical directors and just these incredible humans who are artists and also help other artists to do their best work. And they're just some of my favorite human beings to be around. And I just feel like we've gotten to work with so many good ones this year. And I'm feeling very grateful.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, we at the Jeff Awards, which I work with in Chicago, starting in the very beginning of 2025, we have finally figured out a way, since we can't assess stage manager's role. I mean, as a committee, it's sort of hard to do, but we will be soliciting nominations from theater companies, and we'll be giving, going forward, stage manager awards at both our non-equity and equity ceremonies.
Oh, wow.
Long overdue. We've
Yeah.
tinkered for a long time, thought for a long time about how to do it, and I'm really excited that we're going to be doing that for all the reasons Jen just said.
That's fantastic. It will be hard to qualify that, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's an
How
excuse
wonderful that-
to love people. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to, it's not about the
exactly.
best. It's just about, these are great humans who do great work.
That's
So,
fantastic. Speaking of great humans, I'm excited. I know we're supposed to be doing sort of a looking back in 24, so I'm straddling a 24, 25, and how much I loved working with Heidi Armbruster as a playwright in Murder Girl, and how excited I am to be working with her as an actor in Summer 1976, which is our first show in 2025. And I was thinking about all these people that have dual lives: stage manager, actor, playwright, actor, and the amount of people that that I have worked with that have been like a deck chief who have said, Kat Woodkey, I also act. And I went, wait, what? and your thanks for, the backstage and the people that audiences don't always celebrate, that we are celebrating, are also the people that make a living in this theater wearing so many hats. And there are a tremendous amount of, very few people have one hat in this industry. I'm looking at our producer right now who's doing that and playing Bob Cratchit at Children's Theater of Madison.
Serving a similar role in both capacities.
Many different hats. And that's really cool. And people should pay attention to names and where you see them.
Yeah. A few plays that shout outs to a few plays that really sort of grabbed me. This is by no means, this is purely, as we said at the beginning of this podcast, this is about gratitude. This is not a best of list. These are just things that really moved me. Two plays at American Players Theater this year that absolutely sort of knocked my socks off. Constellations, which I have seen so many times. And I just dutifully, because I try and see everything at APT, nevertheless bought tickets. Okay, I confess, I also bought tickets because it was Casey Hoekstra and Phoebe Gonzalez. And they lived up to my expectations and then some. I mean, two wonderful actors who gave just incredible performances, taught me, as good actors and good productions always do, something new about a show I thought I knew well. And then a brand new show about which I knew absolutely nothing. The Virgin Queen Entertains Her Fool, a Michael Hollinger play. Aaron Posner directed it. With Josh Krause and Jimmy DeVita and Nancy Rodriguez and Tracy Michelle Arnold. I mean, come on. It's like they could have been reading the phone book and it would have been good, but this is actually a really great play.
Yeah.
And there's already nibbles for it coming out of Chicago and probably other places as well, and with reason. It's not just a sort of lovely period piece. It's a smart, really moving play about power and the way in which power gets exercised and all the personal things that get entangled with that and get in the way.
Well, you and I loved, Mike, the Wolves, Renaissance Theater Works
Me too.
production. And Jen. We all did. So Elise Edelman directed it. We've talked about this a little bit, but we can continue to talk. It's a play about high school soccer players. And this was a cast of actual women in high school. And it made such a difference. Such a difference. It felt different. It read differently. The bodies are different in high school than they are in college. And I thought so many of a majority were from First Stage, that showed, and that training that they get from First Stage. And then what a gorgeous production that was. Yeah. Meaningful production.
Yeah. I was thinking, Mike, about what you were saying about Virgin Queen Entertains Her Fool and the excitement of a new play. And this was a year where I found myself in 2024 feeling really grateful for our friend and colleague Lauren Gunderson, even though we weren't producing one of her plays in this year, but we've been in contact a lot, both because her play Artemisia that we commissioned was published recently, and we got to have the excitement of seeing folks buying copies of this play happening out and about in the world, and just the joy of thinking about the future of that story that we helped to midwife into existence. But also lots of great conversations with Lauren as we prepare to start workshopping another new play with her that we'll be working on in 2025. And as Lauren texted to me the day after the election, it will be part of the resistance. So I've just been really grateful for that artistic partnership and friendship, and the great stories that we've been able to tell, thanks to her work and faith in us. And it's exciting to work on these pieces that will, I feel confident, have long lives far beyond the state lines.
Well, and the ever prolific Lauren, being the ever prolific Lauren, also has, and even as this drops a little while from now, it will still be playing. You can see her world premiere production of Little Women, or adaptation of Little Women. Lauren as Joe March. I mean, come on, what is there not to like? That's at Northlight Theater in Skokie. So that's another opportunity to sort of whet your appetite a little bit as you get ready for another forward moment in Lauren's forward-looking career. Staying with this idea of plays, just a couple of others, since I just mentioned Chicago, a couple of productions in Chicago. I mean, I see 150 plays there a year, and they're all great. They all have something for me. A lot of them are really great. Again, ones that really moved me. Natasha Pierre and The Great Comet of 1812, really wonderful production done at Writers Theater in a space that is built for that. They turned the entire space into sort of an opera, an old-fashioned like Skylight Music Theater in Milwaukee kind of opera venue, which was perfect for some of the scenes in that. A production of Falsettos, which is... I love that musical.
Oh, so much. I love it so much.
It's so good. And Court Theater is just finishing up Falsettos for the Ages. That was just so great. And then finally, Chicago Shakespeare, bringing to this side of the drink for the first time in 30 years, the Royal Shakespeare Company is just wrapping up a production of Pericles, which is, you're seeing, and I don't think it's an accident, a ton of productions of the late romances by Shakespeare right now. I mean, we're going to see Winter's Tale both at APT and at Stratford next year. And it's because they speak to our moment, our need for sort of coming together, for reconciliation, for forgiveness, for trying to find a commonality and a love in a moment where we are so divided and where so much is ugly. And, as we move toward the solstice, as we're recording this, what better to think about in terms of those points of light that we just need in our lives right now. So that one I had to call out.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. I think we're probably starting to come towards the end. I'll let you get another one in there, Mike. But this is the last thing that I wanted to talk about on my list, and that is, and I was trying to think about how to phrase this, but my gratitude and love for pragmatic visionaries, and two particular things that people, entities that I wanted to shout out that I'm feeling grateful for in that category. One is Michael Kaiser, who is the former head of the Kennedy Center in DC and a frequent consultant in arts management. He came to Madison a couple of months after we decided to start Forward Theater. And I remember our company manager, Celia Claire, and I went to hear him speak. And I was so inspired because all of the things he was saying about you have to dream big, you have to come up with big, bold ideas, and you have to be really sensible and pragmatic in how you build them, like that balance. And it was exactly the same language and concepts that we'd been talking about in starting Forward. And I thought, this is a guy, we are on the same wavelength here. And just recently, he, a few weeks ago, was on a podcast with Elizabeth Vincentelli and Peter Marks, the Marks and Vincentelli podcast, and they interviewed him. And after you've listened to all of your Theater Forward episodes, I strongly encourage you to listen to this one because, again, pragmatic visionary is how I would describe the outlook that Michael was talking about and the way he thinks about what this field needs. I'm not going to paraphrase it. It's not that long of an episode. Just go listen to it. But I'm just so grateful that there are thinkers like that in our field, because there are not enough of them that can balance the two. I hear a lot of just pragmatism without focusing on being visionary, and just visionary without focusing on how you make it happen. And it's when the two come together that I think is where we really make advances as a field. And then you will see, I think, why I also put this into this category. But I am so darned grateful for the Schubert Foundation.
Yes. Yes.
The Schubert Foundation is pretty much the only nonprofit or foundation that I know of that exists to support nonprofit theater and our operational costs.
And continues at the level they have always been at. They haven't pulled back and changed their priorities.
And they just keep funding theaters around the country. And we desperately need it. It is so hard to solicit, whether it's corporate funds or foundation funds. It costs a lot of money to do what we do. And most funders want their name attached to the big shiny project or the educational program. And all of that is great. But the Schubert Foundation says, we want to help fund what it takes to run a theater. And God bless them, because none of this happens without them. They have their support in front of so many companies all over the country. And God bless them.
Mm-hmm. Great one. Yes.
Yeah. I'm always going to want us to bless the few and far between, increasingly few and far between theater critics that are left in the world that are actually really doing their job and not just writing ad copy on the one hand, or writing John Simon type, just negative digs on the other hand. And a person who, to me, is really moving things forward in the way that we need theater criticism to be, which is supportive and loving and informed while also being critical, is Carrie Reed in Chicago, who is she's the dance and arts editor at Chicago Reader. She is so historically informed. You can read her stuff for free, folks. I mean, it's available online. And even if you never set foot in Chicago, just listening to her with passion and knowledge talk about the history of whatever it is she happens to be talking about in this particular week is worthy. And she's also a practical visionary. Politically, she's that way. In terms of art, she is that way. And she's a champion of black box theater, which we really need right now, and which Chicago really needs. There's just not enough coverage of it coming out of the Chicago Tribune or the Sun-Times, because that's where staffing is these days.
Right.
Yeah. We've covered a wide range.
We have a lot to be thankful for in 2024.
We really, really do. And I'm, of course, very thankful for both of you.
Same.
Right back at you.
For our fabulous producer, Scott, and for everybody who is listening to this. And I think we will say that that's all for this episode of Theater Forward, here in bringing 2024 to a close. It's our conversation about theater in Wisconsin, the Midwest, and America. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Jen Uphoff-Gray.
I'm Julie Swenson.
I'm Mike Fisher, and our podcast is produced indeed by Scott Hayden, who dices and splices. He's not available in any stores. He does so many things. He's just awesome. Thanks to him, you can follow us or share your thoughts on Facebook. As always, it's Theater Forward, and as always, theater is spelled with an ER.
If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
We are so grateful to have you listening, and we will be back soon in 2025 for another Theater Forward conversation.
Happy New Year, everybody.